Hello and welcome. It is 12:30. It is the 9th day of March 2021. And the weather has turned weird for spring in Ventura. But who knows? As my broadcasting teacher once said, if you have nothing else to talk to about, you can always talk about the weather. I am your grumpy guide to all things gaming. OGGM. And it's time to once again attempt to edumacate you. Now, I've tried this twice before this month, but apparently I've upset people simply by reading things off of YouTube and Wikipedia. So I guess you just can't make anybody happy, even if you just plainly read facts from Wikipedia or Reddit or dictionary. It upsets someone. So I think people are just going to be upset about reasons, for no reasons at all. Like, remember those videos I did a couple years ago about toast, simply because I tried to find the one thing that wouldn't piss anybody off? Those pissed somebody off. This is just part and parcel of this whole weird toxicity that has entered our hobby. So today I'm going to attempt to define the word Gonzo D&D, because it seems to be a thing. People have used it a lot. I've heard it a lot repeated lately on various different sites. I don't know if it just means there's a swing back towards that style, but then what does that mean? What is Gonzo D&D? What is Gonzo role-playing? How is Gonzo D&D different than regular D&D? Because let's face it, regular D&D is pretty weird. So what does Gonzo mean? Because to me, Gonzo means either A, the guy from the Muppets, or B, the journalism and writing of Hunter S. Thompson, or 3, some kind of like clown punk would be Gonzo, I guess. But let's look at the definition of the Gonzo genre. Okay, so by the mid-20th century, speculative fiction has gained a number of strongly profiled library genres that were associated with distinct hobby scenes. The 3 most prominent were fantasy, science fiction, and horror. Each literary genre associated with somewhat distinct social hobbyist identities. Within the geek culture aquarium, it mattered the hell of a lot whether your stuff was fantasy or science fiction. The kind of sort of genre of Gonzo emerges against this background as intentionally cross-genre literature, not only mixing genres, but refuting the literary ideal of being conventional and doing any given genre right. This is from some dictionary or encyclopedia. The reason Gonzo doesn't tend to get recognized as a genre and goes under such variety of names is that more of the artistic reaction to the genre than the genre in itself. Simply not being any genre is not Gonzo, but not fitting into any genre because you blatantly and often ironically, to comic or absurd effects, combine genres is exactly that. Gonzo creators have historically tended to draw inspiration more from their source genres than each other, although there has been a changing, so perhaps a new genre will truly emerge from Gonzo. I hear new weird on occasion, but I'm not convinced that's real. So that's somebody else. Actually, that's Avenger Satanis quoting somebody about what is Gonzo means. Gonzo, for me, means like mixing 2 genres in a D&D setting that you wouldn't normally expect. So if Dungeons & Dragons is typically Arthurian mythos meets Middle-earth mythos with a little bit of Conan thrown in, the term I like to call Hollywood medieval, because let's face it, Dungeons & Dragons is not historically accurate, but Hollywood medieval accurate, sort of this idyllic age of fantasy adventure that combines sort of Arthurian myth, Lord of the Rings myth, a bit of Conan, a little bit of Ray Harryhausen, Sinbad stuff, but pretty much all set in sort of this quasi-Middle Ages. And then you throw in like lasers and robots and clowns and Nazis. Nazis appear a lot in Gonzo. Like, look at wizards. So some examples would probably be Thundar the Barbarian, or Thundercats, or Black Star, or Wizards. These late 70s, early 80s cartoons that had this combination of classic fantasy tropes and then sort of weird sci-fi tropes or science fantasy, one of the very first dungeons for Dungeons and Dragons, Temple of the Frog, would be considered Gonzo because it is a classic fantasy adventure where you have to go deal with some frog cultists, but then there's also a crashed spaceship involved, which of course then leads to Expedition to the Barrier Peaks and Metamorphosis Alpha, where suddenly you're running into like computers, cyborgs. I mean, even the cover picture of Temple of the Frog has a wizard holding what looks like a laser pistol. And there's a story about, characters going through Temple of the Frog and a dwarf getting his hand on a flashlight and thinking it was a lightsaber because the character's player had seen Star Wars, and he finds this thing and the guy describes it. And the dwarf character had just seen one of the bad guys use a laser sword, and the player had seen Star Wars, so he goes through the rest of the adventure thinking the flashlight's a lightsaber, and he's like, it's gonna work. Now, I don't know if that's a true story associated with Temple of the Frog or something that just made up, but, just that idea of taking the tried and true fantasy tropes of D&D, but then mixing it with just outrageousness like science fiction, Thunder the Barbarian, or clowns, or aliens, or horror, or just things you wouldn't expect to see in D&D. But another definition of Gonzo D&D could just be the ridiculous amounts of stuff that doesn't make sense that was very common to find in especially really early D&D. Like Keep on the Borderlands is a perfect example of what someone might consider Gonzo D&D. It's your typical standard setup, a cave system filled with monsters, but then when you get in there, the amount of monsters is at an outrageously ridiculous level. Like literally, there is one room where it's a 15 by 15 room with 35 bugbears in it. And it's like, that's mathematically impossible, but okay. I mean, I guess if they're standing on each other's shoulders or whatever, I don't know, but 35 and 15 by 15, if each bugbear is taking up one hex, that's 15 hexes. Where are the other 15 and then the other 5? But whatever. And another common example of that classic Gygaxian ridiculousness would be like the 3 goblins guarding a treasure of 6,000 electrum pieces and a +1 sword, and you're like, well, why aren't they using the +1 sword? No, they're just guarding it. Where did three goblins get 6,000 electrum pieces? So that could be the definition of Gonzo too, just that ridiculous level of treasure that early Gygaxian modules adventures had, and the ridiculous amount of monsters. Again, I mean, you look at Keep of the Borderlands, and it's like literally like, is this just a monster housing project? You've got a bunch of goblins over here, and then literally right next door is a bunch of hobgoblins, and then there's a bunch of bugbears, and then a bunch of orcs, and then some trolls and a dragon. It's like, is this just like a dorm? Because there's no way these guys would live together and take up that little without, fighting each other. How come the goblins aren't fighting the orcs over the food and whatever? And like, what do they eat? It's Gonzo. I don't have to explain what they eat. Where do they go to the bathroom? It's Gonzo. I don't have to explain where they go to the bathroom. Where's the fresh air coming from? It's a Gonzo. I don't have to explain. So that's the other. But generally, the term is sort of the silliness, tongue-in-cheekness almost, of combining the classic tropes of D&D, whatever that may be. Each and everybody has their own individual D&D, but generally we're going to say it's that Hollywood medieval combination of, Lady Hawk, King Arthur, Lord of the Rings, Conan, Ray Harryhausen, the Sinbad movies, Robin Hood, whatever, all combined, sort of makes D&D, Hollywood medieval Dungeons and Dragons, but still basically back then. And then suddenly you throw in robots and lasers and aliens and laser beams and clowns and dinosaurs and a car and post-apocalypse stuff and like Nazis and just sort of this. Why are these here? I don't have to explain it. It's Gonzo. And probably the perfect example of a Gonzo fantasy world would be the world of Ralph Bashki's Wizards, where you have magic and technology. The world of Thunder the Barbarian, where you have magic and technology. Black Star, where you have magic and technology. Thundercats, where you have Mumra representing magic, and the Thundercats representing mutations and technology. Just that. He-Man would be another one. Again, magic. We've got the magic of Sorcerer and Orko and Skeletor, but then you've also got really super bizarre advanced technology with flying ships and spaceships and all that ridiculousness and ancient alien technology. So just the combination of magic, technology, fantasy, and then things that just sort of take the fantasy genre and uproot it, often with a sort of humorous, tongue-in-cheek, meta self-awareness, like a revolving door in a dungeon and just watching player characters get stuck in the revolving door. Like there's, like Funhouse Dungeons would be another example of Gonzo. Like White Plume Mountain. White Plume Mountain is filled with stuff that makes no sense, including a log flume ride. Why is there a log flume ride in a dungeon? That's a lot of time and energy this guy went to put it in a log flume ride. On the off chance that a bunch of adventurers come in and maybe find it? No, whatever. But it's Gonzo. I don't have to explain it. It's White Plume Mountain. It's goofy. So, yeah, that just sort of the general goofiness. So you're going to hear the term. People are going to say, Gonzo D&D. What you don't hear anymore is Monty Hall D&D. There's a term you don't hear anymore. But Gonzo is a term we still hear. So hopefully I have managed to explain it or further confuse you. And I'm sure somebody's going to comment down below and say I was wrong and how dare I and blah, blah, blah. And I don't know why this weird toxicity and, everybody attacking everybody has entered the hobby. But anything, it gets me, clicks and it gets me thumbs up and thumbs down. So, and, every comment still goes towards the algorithm. So I'm not going to complain. Comment down below if you think I got the description of Gonzo right. Definitely comment down below if you think I got it wrong. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. Help me hit 500 subs by August 4th, 2021. Remember, we're doing a contest. The 350th sub will win a copy of Mutants and Masterminds 2nd edition. Like, share, subscribe, support. Check out some of my other, fellow YouTubers. And above all, stay crazy, you Gonzo losers, you.